Welcome to the Mills Knows Bills podcast. My name is Mills Bender. I'm the founder and CEO of Mills Knows Bills, where we help you, variable income earners, master your money in 90 days. The point of this podcast is to help you make the most of your fluctuating income so you can stop living paycheck to paycheck, pay off your debt twice as fast, and get on track toward reaching both your personal and professional financial goals. Now, as I continue to grow my team here at MKB, you may have some guest hosts from time to time. However, our goal does not change. Whether we're bringing in a guest speaker, having an in-depth conversation about our personal finances, or talking about a topic that is of interest to you, our goal is to help you master your money. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Mills Knows Bills podcast. I'm your host as well as founder and CEO of Mills Knows Bills, Mills Bender, where we answer entrepreneurs' burning financial questions. Each week we have a guest who asks a question, we answer it, provide them advice, and let them go on their way so that they can continue building their business. With us today, we have the one and only Matthew Wasserman. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about who you are before we dive into your question.
Sure. Well, as you said, my name is Matthew Wasserman. I am a personal injury attorney based in Orlando, Florida. Personal injuries, so I deal with car crashes, slip and fall, trip and fall, and many other premises liability. There's a big umbrella there. So a lot of different ways, unfortunately, that people can get hurt and somebody else is responsible. So that's kind of the base of my practice.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time today. What is your burning financial question that I can help you with?
Sure. So especially where I'm at right now is in like the growth phase of a law firm. So what are some common pitfalls that you see with some attorneys that you work with as they grow their law firms kind of from the beginning through different stages?
That's awesome. So I've actually been bringing on a few attorneys recently in our practice. So there's been the biggest issues that I've been seeing with my attorney clients is that many of them don't have a budget. They don't know what their finances should look like, especially if you are in the growth stage right now. What I would encourage you to do is establish a budget for where you want to be a year from now. Then you're able to start making different decisions, both operationally and financially, that align with where you want to be rather than where you are. The second thing I noticed is that a lot of them don't have enough accounts separate from their operating account. And so it makes it more difficult for them to reach their savings goals, maybe hire additional people, expand and invest back into their business. So I would encourage you to identify maybe 3 to 4 areas in your business that it would be great to set money aside: emergency fund, taxes, maybe hiring new people. If you have specific growth areas that you want to expand upon, set aside that money on a consistent basis, allowing you to have that revenue ready to go. The next thing I always see is their marketing spend. Are they getting the return on ad spend that they're looking for? I know that there's a lot of professional organizations out there that gear themselves towards small law firms that say that you need to be generating 10x. That might not be the case for every single person in your industry, right? So you want to make sure that you're having great conversations with your head of marketing to make sure that you are getting a great return on your ad spend so you can keep bringing in your clients. And then the final thing is that the clients that I work with, their books this is actually the biggest thing, truly, their books don't tell enough of a story. So for example, if I look at their profit and loss before they come to me and hire me as their bookkeeper, in addition to their fractional CFO, it's very basic because their bookkeeper has set it up for what the books are typically meant for, which is just filing taxes, making sure everything is categorized properly. But if you're trying to grow a company and scale it, you need your books to tell you a more detailed story. So if your revenue underneath just says legal fees, that's not enough. Thank you for telling me absolutely nothing about your business. You need to tell me what type of lawsuits that you're getting that revenue from. You need to tell me maybe in your expenses where those people are coming from. I need to have a detailed story so that way I can help you identify where you're making the most money, where you should double down on marketing, maybe where it's not worth your effort to spend marketing spend, right? And allow you to have a more detailed picture of where your company is going. So that way you're not always in this rat race of making money, but never really knowing where it is getting spent. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, it does. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Any other follow-up questions on that?
Actually, a lot. So basically, I was like, yeah, I'll keep it controlled. Yeah, just so you were going through a lot of things, and it just started to get my mind working.
Sure.
So one of them is you're talking about marketing spend and telling that story and that picture. So sometimes you got to look at marketing and what your efforts are, and then you don't want to be too quick to pull the cord on it.
Absolutely.
But also, you don't want to stay in it too long. So what kind of time frame are you looking at? Whereas like to get a good snapshot is this marketing effort working versus do I need to, pivot to do something else?
90 days.
Okay.
What else?
You answered that a lot easier than I thought you were. Perfect. Okay. 90 days.
That's one of those. That's a great rule of thumb. I don't need to explain it much more than that.
Gotcha. And so I guess when it comes to budget for, so I'll talk about staffing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you typically see the time to hire more staff? Like when is it time to hire versus when is it time to keep it lean and reinvest back into the business and marketing?
So I always tell my clients when you are getting close to about 80% of your capacity, that's when you should start looking for your next hire. And the next hire should allow you to get to the path of least resistance to more revenue. So if it is a fulfillment issue or you expect it to be a fulfillment issue, you need somebody else to help with fulfillment. If it's a pipeline issue, you need to find somebody else to help you with pipeline, right? So when you are at 80% capacity already in that specific role, that's when you start the hiring process because you want to make sure you're not making a hiring decision out of desperation. You're making a good hiring decision because typically when you finally find that person, now you're at 90% capacity. That remaining 10%, you might need to fill in a little bit more. So now you're at 110% of your typical capacity, taking 20% to train the new person. Right? But then once that person is done being trained, hopefully within 2 to 4 weeks, your capacity can then go back down to about 50%. Right? So start the process before it's a problem, because if you wait until it's a problem, it's going to cost you more time and more money in the long run.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Of course. What else?
I think that, oh man. Those were pretty much the main areas that I had questions for. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else that maybe a small law firm should think of, kind of in the beginning stages? Maybe like if you're looking at spending on like a pie chart. So if you're doing like staff versus marketing and other areas, is there a typical like pie chart percentage on where to allocate funds?
It depends on the different law firm. What I will say is I'm seeing about 30% profit for every law firm I work with right now. So how you decide to spend the 70% that's not going in your pocket at the end of the day is really up to you. I would say 10% should be a good revenue amount to go to marketing though. So now you have 60%. Where are you going to 30, 10. Yeah. Now you have 60%. Where should you allocate that? That's really dependent upon how many people you have, what the cost is of acquisition for your pipeline. It just varies, strictly speaking. I have some people who spend 50% of their revenue on staff. I have some who spend 20%. It really depends on you. But if you're in that growth stage, what I would say is because we're establishing that budget for a year from now, budget out what you want to be spending on people, how many people you're going to hire, how much those people are going to cost you. And then when you are getting close to maybe that 60 to 70% capacity, start setting aside that monthly pay for that new hire in a separate account knowing that you're going to hopefully have 3 months that you're consistently putting aside, you know that you can afford it, then you have 3 months of an emergency fund strictly for that new person's pay. Because what I find, regardless of the industry, is when you hire somebody and you train them, immediately when you're done training them, you've already experienced a slowdown in your pipeline because you previously were focusing on filling the pipeline, right? So if you're not focusing on prospecting, you're going to experience that slowdown. So dependent upon how quickly you can ramp back up, you'll have 3 months of pay set aside, given that time frame of ramping them up through training, right?
Yeah, it's always difficult to know I guess really predict the future of how to allocate your time and balancing your needs currently versus what your needs are going to be in the future if you double down too much in the present moment. So that's a good point. Thank you.
Of course. Have you read the book Traction before?
What's that?
The book Traction by Gino Wickman.
I literally have it. Somebody recommended it for me. It's
10 out of 10.
I maybe opened it once. I need to dive in for sure.
I would, just slightly encourage you to read it. But one thing that I do, and I took away from that book, is I'll set my goal for a year from now, but then every 90 days, I'm restructuring my calendar. I'm restructuring my budget. I'm restructuring my goals, all to align with where I want to be that year from now, right? So it allows me to have more digestible pieces. So I'm not thinking, okay, how many people am I going to hire in 6 months? I just know how many people am I going to hire in the next 3? And what do I need to do to get there? So it kind of keeps things more tangible for you, if that makes sense. But with that said, tell us more about what you do and who you're looking for.
Sure. Yeah. So again, personal injury attorney. I'm based in Central Florida, but I can handle cases all throughout the state. And I would say, you could probably, anybody who's driven in Florida has seen billboards and personal injury attorneys everywhere. There's no shortage. I would say what sets me apart and what I really try and focus on is that client experience and the customer client service component. Because oftentimes with personal injury cases, you're getting people that are sometimes at the lowest point, one of the lowest points of their life. So when it comes down to recovery, you can get a client the same amount of money at the end of the case, but the amount of money isn't going to take away the pain. Sometimes it's not going to change the outcome. What they're going to remember is how they felt during the whole process. Did they feel seen? Did they feel heard? Really that they had their time in court or time with the person that caused them harm. So that's kind of what my cornerstone is and focus is, that really speaking with the clients and staying in constant communication, making sure that they know that I understand the gravity of their case and what we can work on together collaboratively moving forward to get a result that they can be happy with and live with. So that's kind of what my focus is.
I love that you have that personal touch. It is, I'm assuming, a very tumultuous time for a lot of your clients. And so it's nice that you walk them through that process, not just financially, but emotionally to an extent, I'm sure. But anyway, how can somebody find you? What's your website?
Sure. So the website is www.millertriallaw.com. That's MILLER, triallaw.com. And you can email me at Matthew, MATTHEW, at millertriallaw.com. I can see what's going on, what the situation is, and get on the phone with you for a free consultation.
Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for your questions. I hope that it was valuable insight for you, and I look forward to seeing how you grow this company. Have a good one.
This will definitely be an episode I will be listening to again and again to refresh it. Thank you.
I sure hope so. I'm just kidding. Absolutely. You have a good one. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. You too.